What's up, guys? Mike the MGTOWN Man again, bringing you another video. So I'm sitting here in my car early in the day, and I was nervous. I was nervous to talk about this topic. But damn it, somebody needs to weed out the bullshit. Somebody needs to realize that both sides are making really good points. But also somebody needs to make new points. Otherwise, this is going to continue and it's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse. But before I do that, before I get into this topic, just know I do not care who wants to choose a side. I do not care. Because I know my destiny is to bring truth into this world. So even when it's hard, I listen to the other side and what they've got to say. And I've got a world of experience. And I've spent most of my life listening to what people had to say. I'm going to turn my car off for a second because this is fucking serious. In my last song, I said, they're going to set a fire to this land. And if we don't wake up, no one stands. When I say they, I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about the secret societies who are trying to use their pain for their agenda. I have seen videos lately that show people in the Black Lives Matter community telling these people who are breaking windows, "What are you doing? Why are you breaking these windows?" There was even a video of a man who was obviously an undercover cop. Obviously. Or maybe something worse. Maybe a group of men like the same ones that shot at me during that live stream last year. Because those men were also dressed in black. Just like the man that was carrying the black umbrella in broad daylight at the BLM rally. Broad daylight was carrying this umbrella and a hammer. Nobody else was looting. Nobody else was rioting. There was still sun up. This man walked up to this business and just started smashing windows and then walking away. And somebody said, "Are you a cop?" And his reaction was very odd. It was very off-putting. Now, I need to point out something before I go any further. Black Lives Matter, it's very disorganized. And depending what city you've gone to, depends a lot on what you've seen this group do. Here in Idaho, I seen a Black Lives Matter rally. I seen people on the left and the right having casual conversations, and everything was peaceful. Nobody set fires to anything. Nobody was looting. Nobody was rioting. Even if you didn't agree with Black Lives Matter, you were there listening, just listening. Nobody was saying fuck whitey. Nobody was saying fuck white privilege. Nobody was saying, there was no Black Panthers there saying that they need to kill white people or white babies. But in some cities, you'll see that. Some cities you will see people saying, fuck white privilege, fuck whitey, and we need to kill white babies. You'll see that in some cities. But I've been doing my own investigations into the BLM for many years. I knew it wasn't the end of it last few years ago. I knew it wasn't the end. I knew it was going to come back. But there is a genuine pain in the black community, a genuine pain. And neither side has really gave it too much of a thought to give their own independent analysis, because they're not listening. They're not listening. Both sides are not listening. A lot of people in the BLM, they're being fed propaganda, being told what to say, being told what to believe, being told what direction to go. They're being told by propaganda artists and social engineers what topics they need to talk about. And they pull on their emotional strings to control the narrative. You see, Black Lives Matter could have been a beautiful thing. It could have been, but it's not. And it won't be remembered as a great movement. There's no Martin Luther Kings in that group that are being heard, because outsiders that aren't even from the cities that are being burned to the fucking ground. These cities are being burned to the ground. And oftentimes it's by outsiders that aren't even in the BLM. It's not organized. It's not functional. Therefore, it will be a stain on black people, not something to be proud of. Black people need to be proud that they're standing up for themselves to some degree. Because a lot of you live in poverty. A lot of you are surrounded by crime. A lot of you are surrounded by politicians that tell you to vote for them every year, because they tell you the other side is bad, the other side is evil. And you vote for the same fucking people every fucking year. And yet nothing changes. The truth is that when you look, again, both sides are making good points. Both sides are making dumb points. Both sides are disorganized. Both sides are being told what to think and how to react to the pain of black society. And that should make you suspicious. Martin Luther King said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." That's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. By the way, to all the far, far leftists out there, he was a Republican. Even though I'm not a saint. I don't profess to be a saint. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I question religion oftentimes. But I also see the good that Christianity does for society. I'm talking about the local churches, not Christianity as an organized religion. Because I see a lot of these mega churches where their pastors are driving Bentleys, and right down the street there's a man starving to death. And they own neighborhoods, and they're pulling in even more money, but they still ask you for $1 on Sunday, even though they collect rent at all these neighborhoods that they own. And even though they get the ad revenue from putting their shows on TV, they still want that extra $1. And they got perfect teeth. They get the Botox. The pastor marries some woman that just wants all the glory and the pats on the back. And she gets the teeth, she gets the fake tits, she gets the Botox. And then it's happy wife, happy life from then on out, because he's loaded with money. And I'm gonna keep going unfiltered. I don't care if a car drives by. I don't care if this helicopter drives by. I'm gonna say what I have to say. And I'm not gonna edit this video. Most videos, you might think that I'm just going on and on and on. A lot of it has to do with notes. and editing and chopping, certain sounds out. And sometimes I'll stutter because I get too emotional when I talk. But I'm not going to be filtered on this one. But, Martin Luther King was a God-fearing man. That's the reason why I brought this up. He was a God-fearing man, and a lot of what drove him was Scripture. If you look how Martin Luther King carried himself, just like Jesus did, whether or not Jesus is real, I'm just going on the story. Jesus surrounded himself with questionable people and good people. So did Martin Luther King. He had Al Sharpton next to him. Al Sharpton's a poverty pimp. Hasn't helped black people out very much at all, except, getting them riled up. Al Sharpton has not come up with one solution, though. And if you're black, you should question that. Why is it that MLK is being put in the history books and Al Sharpton won't be? It's because Al Sharpton does not inspire. He lights the fire. That's it. But what a lot of people don't tell you is that back in the day during Bloody Sunday, it's really hard to look this shit up, but this is what happened. Martin Luther King trusted Al Sharpton to set up the protests. But Al Sharpton did not get the permits. Not for the day that they went and did it. Martin Luther King assumed that they had the permits, but they did not. Because Al Sharpton was a piece of shit and did not get the permits on time. And so they had all of these people out there having an illegal protest. It was not legal. It was not supposed to happen yet. Had it happened with the permit, had they waited a little bit longer, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a Bloody Sunday, but perhaps it wouldn't have been so violent. Perhaps it wouldn't have been so bad. Unfortunately, many good people in that protest were hurt, were injured for life, and some died, from those injuries later on. You can only take so many beatings to the head before your brain says, fuck it, lights out. That's how it was back then. And a lot of the organizers that were around Martin Luther King, they did not organize the protest properly, and then chaos ensued. Despite what people will tell you, not all of the police were just absolutely racist. They just did not know how to handle such a situation. They were told that these protests were illegal and that they had to maintain order. But they were not trained properly. And black people were not respected properly at the time. They couldn't even use the same water fountain as a white man. They had to sit in the back of the bus. They had to go to separate teaching facilities. When they played sports better than the white man, people freaked the fuck out. That's how it was back then. And then, these officers were put in that position to fight, a bunch of people who had good intentions, all because it was not organized properly. Now, perhaps, and I'm considering this because of the error, perhaps even if it was organized, perhaps it still would have turned out the same way. But the point I'm trying to make here is that Black Lives Matter is not organized. And sooner or later, there's going to be another Bloody Sunday, another stain on this country, all because both sides told the other side to shut the fuck up. The truth is, both sides do need to shut the fuck up, but they don't need to be told. And when I say shut the fuck up, I only mean like, I'm not saying you don't have something to say. I'm saying instead of getting up in your chest, say what you have to say in a respectful manner, but also listen to the other side in a respectful manner as well. Now, as far gone as this society is, I don't think that's even possible anymore. This video is not going to go viral. Nobody's going to care about my ideas. But when I look at history, it literally repeats itself. And it's terribly sad and it's terribly unfortunate that in this day and age, and it's not a coincidence, but in this day and age, a lot of these young people that you see in those streets, they're not being taught history properly. They're being taught to erase it. When they're being taught about what Martin Luther King went through, they're not being told that the protests were unorganized. Even though Martin Luther King was a very organized man. He chose all of his words carefully. A lot like Jordan Peterson says. Jordan Peterson says he chooses his words carefully. So did Martin Luther King. That's why his speeches have changed the hearts of millions. And before this world ends, he will change the hearts of trillions. If we last that long. And that's if. That's a big if. Sadly, he is one of the last icons in the black community that wanted unity. And even though he was not allowed to drink out of the same water fountain as a white man, he did not bash white people for it. He didn't bash them. What Martin Luther King did is he explained his experience as a black man and the experience of black people in his community. He explained it, laid it out. And he didn't do it with hate. He preached about love and unity. And in a country like America today, the word love, especially in relationships, you MGTOW out there, you understand this. The word love, it gets tossed around. And just like printing out money, just printing it out, printing it out, printing it out, printing it out, printing it out. When you're printing out that word love constantly, and you're just constantly, it's just constantly out there. Like, every time you date somebody, or, just every time you get in a relationship, before your MGTOW, the woman would want you to tell her that you loved her. And if you didn't, she would get pissed and the relationship would end. So even if you didn't fall absolutely in love with this woman yet, because that takes time, she was conditioned to expect you to say that you loved her instantly. Instantly. And that's the society that we live in. The word love is tainted and it's gone. Some of you fathers out there, you love your children. That's true love. That's the true definition. You're committed and you're loyal to your children. But men and women are not committed and loyal to each other. When Martin Luther King was preaching about love is the only way to defeat hate, I don't see the left and right when it comes to black and white issues. I don't see them loving each other. It's just not there. It's like Martin Luther King died for no reason, and nobody listened to a fucking thing he had to say. People quote him all the time, little quotes. Like the one I just said where he said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. People quote that. But very, very few, very, 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 very few understand it. They understand the word hate. Everybody understands the word hate these days. Oh, I hate far leftists. And then the far leftists say, oh, I hate, people on the far right. What's going on with America and the world when that's the world that we live in? Now, me, obviously, I have an issue. Mostly, and this is only mostly with the far left. But I don't hate them. I have an issue with the far right too. But I don't hate them. Think of the movie Matrix. How can you hate the people that are stuck in it when they don't know that they're in the Matrix? All you can do is point it out. All you can do is try to wake them up. But if they don't take that red pill and they stay asleep, you shouldn't hate them for it. Perhaps I'm getting wiser with age, because when I first, came upon this journey in MGTOW, I hated people that refused the red pill. I hated them. I did. But that was not healthy for me. That didn't help my cause. I'm starting to see the bigger picture. Some people are just blind to truth because they have been programmed so long to believe what they believe that they refuse. They just simply refuse to get out of that comfort zone. It's not easy to deprogram yourself when it's comfortable to believe what you believe. Because that's what the Matrix is. Sleepwalking. And I want to start a new saying. It's not about Black Lives Matter. Sure, there's some stories out there in the ether where, a black woman, something bad happens to them, but it's mostly black men. Make no mistake. It's mostly black men that suffer in this whole fucking shit. This is not a, oh, I'm one of the good white people thing. This is, I want both sides to wake the fuck up thing. So I'm going to lay it down for some people out there. Do you want to know why the crime rate is so high in black communities? It's not because they're just listening to rap music. Perhaps that's a part of it, perhaps. Because music is a form of brainwashing. It is. You can use music for, to put out a positive message, and you can brainwash the masses, with truth. The word brainwashing is not necessarily always a bad thing. However, in this day and age, the mainstream music world, they only care about, having these fat wallets. They will pull some guy that's never been in the hood, that's never been in a gang, give him a gun, give him some tattoos, throw him into a gang, put him on lean, put him on a bunch of drugs. Next thing you know, he's lost. Next thing you know, he is causing other young men to do the same thing because, oh, that beat is sick. Oh, this track is dope. It's all bullshit. But it's not, that's just a sliver. That's just a sliver of what's going on in black America. A lot of white people, they go, oh, if black people would just stop listening to rap music, it'll all get better. No, it won't. You could take rap music completely away and go back to the old school jazz and blues. Back when Black America was allowed to at least express themselves in a productive way that they could truly relate to. And make no mistake, jazz and blues, it has helped a lot of Black people through their struggle. And it kept them on the straight and narrow to understand that when you're going through something, somebody else might be going through it too, not just you. Now you hear music talking about, oh, I'm going to fuck your wife, or I'm going to fuck your girl. There's one rap song where a guy goes, oh, is that your wifey, wifey, wifey? I think I like it, like it, like her. What does that promote? Promiscuity, broken homes, a thirst for, I just got to have that ass. But again, that's only a fraction of what Black men are going through. Their family structure has been systematically destroyed, as all races are experiencing. But from what I see, they were the first ones to be completely destroyed. They were the first race to be completely destroyed. Eventually, Black men said, you know what? And this is before the Red Pill community even existed. Eventually, Black men said, you know what? They prophetized divorce. I don't want to get married. Fuck that. So Black men were technically red-pilled before any other group. And the shaming tactic of these social engineers, whenever you go on the TV or the news, they're always out there going, oh, Black men are not there for their sons. They're not there for their daughters. That's not true. They just choose not to get married. A lot of Black men are living the MGTOW lifestyle, and they just don't know it. But at the same time, at the other, side of the coin there, a lot of them are unfortunately living the pickup artist lifestyle. And it's ruining their lives. And there is a difference. I'm not going to sit here and explain all of the difference. I've done that many times, the difference between MGTOW and PUA. Why do a lot of red-pilled Black men have a bunch of different kids from a bunch of different women? Because they're told that it makes them a man to be promiscuous. It makes them a man to fuck all these different bitches and get them all pregnant and plant their seeds out there. And again, I'm not going to stop. There's a truck going by. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to pause for a second. Sorry to make you wait, but I am not going to be filtered. I am not going to edit this video. Fuck that. They're being told to be promiscuous and hook up with all of these fucking women. They don't even realize that they're falling for the PUA trap. They end up with alimony and child support and all that if they get married. Because the Black women, the ones that call themselves queens, they are all very, very, very aware that he's a disposable man and a utility and an ends to a means. They know when they write him off, they'll get their money from the state. And he'll be looked at like a deadbeat if he can't pay it, or if he can't pay for it. And do you want to know why a lot of Black men cannot afford alimony and child support? Many races struggle. I know a lot of white men, Hispanic, Asians, a lot of men, even some Middle Easterns, who struggle because they have to pay alimony and child support. It depends on what state you're in, on how bad it gets, and also what country you live in. But Black men specifically have been fucked over. You see, back in the Jim Crow era, The reason why look, people get told, oh, black men sag their pants because of prison. And, you hear the whole story about prison when you sag your pants and all that. Look, back in the Jim Crow era, black men would be proud to get a fucking job and a career because it made them feel like they had a chance for the next generation to help their children live a better life. And they borrowed their uncle, their cousins, their older brother, or their father's suit and tie and slacks and shoes. They borrowed it. And sometimes it did not fit. When you're a young man wearing a grown man's clothes, it just doesn't fit. But when that's all you can afford, you will wear it proudly. That's why a lot of black men, wore these clothes that don't fit them. But this is the truth right here. This is something I have to say. Back in the Jim Crow era, even with all of the racism, even though black men could not go to restaurants or drink from the same water fountain or sit at the same spot on the bus, there was still more jobs for them. Their family structure was still intact. It was dangerous for black men to go out and do just about any fucking thing, but they did it anyways because they had a wife and kids at the house. Now back then, a lot of black men, it was hard for you to get an education. But if you did, you could do really, 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 really well if you could get it. And the rest had to do hard labor, hard work. There's a lot of buildings standing up today that has the bloodstains of black men back in the day when we didn't have the technology to build buildings the way we do today and the safety harnesses that we have today. There's a lot of buildings in New York that was built on the lives and the deaths and the blood, sweat, and tears of black men. And they took those jobs because not only were they available, but again, it was for their families. That was when it was the worst, the most racism you ever heard of in America. After slavery, as far as that goes. They had opportunity. It was dangerous, but they took those opportunities. But I encourage anybody to go to Chicago today and you tell me what opportunities there are. Are there good jobs in Chicago? Fuck yeah. Are there hard labor jobs in Chicago? Fuck yeah. But it does not match the population. It's not enough. It's not enough jobs. That's why if you're black, you should vote for somebody that's going to build your communities up, that's going to bring you jobs. This is not a public service announcement for, oh, you should vote for Trump. You vote for whoever you want to vote for. It's your right. I'm looking past Trump on this specific topic. Because there will always be another election. There will always be another motherfucker trying to come in and pander to you. You need to tell these motherfuckers to bring you some opportunities and bring you jobs. But unlike the 1960s, they need to bring you jobs that's not going to get you killed. And they need to bring you jobs that's not going to, build up the city, but risk your life. You shouldn't have to risk your life to provide for your families. And I know I'm MGTOW and everything, but I'm looking past MGTOW on this. It's not just about, you see, when you have a channel, you don't just talk about bachelorhood. I love being a bachelor. I love it. But this problem here is bigger than us, guys. This problem is going to affect everybody if we don't get it handled. So to the men out there, Whether or not you agree with MGTOW, if you're a married man and you're black, you got to be worried about your future generations. It's not about black versus white. That's what they want. I'm in my van right now and I'm white, and I've been sleeping in this van for weeks because I'm chasing the American dream, and I'm running from some scary fucking people that want me dead because of what I talk about. I don't feel very privileged over that. But I will say this. Whether or not this whole George Floyd thing was a psyop, because I've been looking into that, but I'm not going to entertain that idea because that will cause division. Whether or not that was a psyop is irrelevant. I have a point to make. Now, I have a problem with promoting the idea of white privilege when I say this, but there is a point I need to make. As a white man, I used to be a hardcore drug dealer, and I've never really mentioned this much. I sold cocaine, Molly, ecstasy, weed, just about fucking everything that I could to survive in North Tulsa. Now, if there's anybody out there that understands what North Tulsa is, it's a ghetto for both white and black people. There's no opportunities there. If I would have ended up on the street out there, I'd be dead. So to keep myself from ending up on that street, I was a hustler at a club that used to exist called the G-Spot. It was a rave club. Multiple raids at that club before it finally got shut down. And luckily I was not there when it officially got shut down. Multiple raids. I was a security guy there. I was a door guy. I checked IDs. I kicked out undercover cops. I kicked out people trying to start fights. But eventually I made a name for myself, and people knew I was a drug dealer. It was known everywhere. I had to do some questionable shit. I put in what they call work. Am I proud of that life? No. But I'm glad that I gained some perspective. Not just once or twice, but multiple occasions. I was acting a plumb fool. Even one time I had a knife out, threatening to stab myself because I was not in my right mind. Somebody stole a lot of fucking shit from me. A lot of shit, and I was worried about, a bullseye being put on my head. So I tried to take my life. My family tried to stop me. The cops showed up, and I had a knife in my hand, and I was not well. They did not shoot me. They tried to talk to me. There was times where I was stopped and I had a lot of drugs on me. A lot. It was taken from me, and that was it. There was at least 2 occasions where I fist fought, police officers, fist fought them. One was over a mistaken identity for a robbery I did not commit. And I just absolutely refused to be put in a lineup. Guess who their first instinct was? Because I fought back. But they didn't kill me. And then it took a while, but later on I was found to be innocent. They didn't kill me though. Nobody crushed my neck into the ground. And again, I'm not going to confirm or deny my own personal beliefs on whether or not the George Floyd story is real. Whether it's a psyop. I'm not going to confirm or deny my own beliefs on that. But there has been many instances where a black man fights with a police officer and he ends up dead. Now I'm a firm believer that it's just smart not to fight with the police. You fuck with somebody with a pistol who has a badge, and they have almost any right, whether you agree with it or not, to shoot you. If they say that, oh, this and that happened, what can you do if they don't have a fucking camera? So it's just small. Excuse me. It's just choking me. This topic is fucking choking me up, guys. Because it's rough to talk about this. It really is. But it's fucking sad. It's sad, okay? When you see an officer, a lot of those gentlemen, they go through PTSD from seeing a lot of shit that people don't even know about. It doesn't excuse their overexertion of power later, or their aggression, or their one-size-fits-all attitude that a lot of them carry. Not all, but a lot of them carry enough to that, to the point that a lot of people just don't like cops. There's people that don't like the Black Lives Matter group, but they also don't like cops. I'm not saying that black people need to get a pass when they're aggressive to police officers. I'm also not saying that all police officers are good or bad. I'm saying both sides need to listen to the other side for once. If you're a white officer and you have children, look into your children's eyes and ask yourself, what can I do to bring unity so my child does not have to live in fear? And if you're a black man and you have children, look into your children's eyes and say, what do I have to do to bring unity so my children don't have to live in fear? What it comes down to is the elites who sit back and watch both sides fight. What it comes down to is that. The elites say, oh, left or right. What about the middle? Oh, that's right. The elites already chose a middle party. I won't say which side they tend to lean on, but they don't lean in the middle. They claim middle, but they're not. You got these conservatives that say, oh, I'm libertarian, I'm in the middle as well. There's a few groups that claim to be in the middle, and it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. But if you want your children to live in a better society than what they live in today, acknowledge a little bit of what the other side has to say. And also, police officers need to get the same training that the military gets as far as combatives goes. Because these, few instances where you see an officer crushing a man's neck, it's ridiculous. Being disobedient should never warrant a death sentence, even by mistake. Being disobedient to the system should never warrant a death sentence. Otherwise, if you're MGTOW, shouldn't we be dead? We are disobedient to the system. And yes, there are people that want us dead. I can personally tell you that. And it's not right. It's not correct. I've had to talk to the FBI a couple times. And I had to do so without even telling my own family that I had just talked to the FBI, because I did not want them to worry. I did not want to hear them tell me to quit being disobedient to the system. I did not want them to go on a spill about how I need to give MGTOW up, because I'm not going to. I have a right to believe what I believe and live how I want. The problem is that the energy that black people are feeling, it's being controlled. It's being directed into something negative. It's being directed into a fashion so they feel they should hate white people. The more white people that hate black people, the more black people hate white people, and the more black people that hate white people, the more white people will hate black people, and the circle of hate continues. What are we going to do about that? Because as far as I can see, when it comes to Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter group, it's just another left versus right. And that's all it is. It's a yin-yang of bullshit and division and hate. And if I had children, I would be worried about that. I would be worried about that. To the point where I wouldn't be able to sleep at night unless I could find a way to fix it. And unfortunately, there may not be a way to fix it. We may be too far gone. But we don't have to be too far gone. Instead of saying, oh, there's high crime rate here in this neighborhood, Chicago, Detroit, Compton, a few other places where there's a large community of, African Americans. They're living on welfare. You got single motherhood out there just going rampant, and these supposed queens are just cashing in on men who fuck them. They pop out a couple kids, they're fertile. They pop out a couple kids from a bunch of different dudes, get a bunch of different checks from the government. And they can sit there all day long feeling like they don't need a man. Single motherhood, no matter what race, is the number one cause for the dysfunctions of society. And it is the number one cause for the crime rate. Not just for black people, but for all people. And it's time that, if you're African American and you want change in this country, you want opportunity, you want a better life, start calling that out as well. But you have to call out why it's happening. The system is profitizing. Divorce. Profitizing. And it's hurting the black communities the most. And then, after they destroyed the family structure, what happens next? Well, a bunch of kids turn into criminals. And also, the fathers are red-pilled about this shit, so like, well, I'm just not going to get married. So then you have more single mothers. Then you have more crime. Nobody's married. So there's no two-parent homes. The crime rate just continues to grow. And then when you turn on the TV, they say, oh, deadbeat dads. In the black community, it's just everywhere. The truth is I see, these black women out here abusing their fucking kids. Terribly. I've talked to a lot of black men and a lot of black women about what their childhood was like when they got in trouble. And who hit them. And who beat them with vacuum cleaner cords. And who made them kneel on rice. And how all they had was a bologna sandwich or some fucking ramen noodles to eat. Or a can of beans. Because they had to get, these queens out there had to get those extensions and those nails to just keep their lifestyle up as if they got it all together. Meanwhile, the children are being abused. And the father is separated. And he has to either work 2 jobs, anywhere from 40 to 70 plus hours a week. or he has to hustle because in his community, the crime rate is so high because of the family structure being destroyed that there's no way he can work enough hours and earn enough money for his family, so he has to go sell that fucking crack. He has to make that robbery. There's nothing that drives a man more into the dark side like being hungry to provide for your family. If black men hated their family, there would not be a crime rate. I know that's hard for a lot of people to grasp, but let me say it one more time. If black men did not love their families, there would not be a high crime rate. In more cases than not, these men have children. Even these men that are in gangs, they act hard in front of their crew, but whenever they're there with their son at his first basketball game, when their sons are in elementary school, or their daughter wants to try out for cheerleading or track or something, those black fathers are there. They're there. They're there. And it breaks their heart that they don't know that if they go out and do what's called work, when they have to go do some crazy shit to provide because there's no jobs, it breaks their heart when they watch their son, make a 3-point shot, make that layup. And then he thinks to himself, I don't know if I'm ever going to see my son make it to college and play college ball. Or, God forbid, am I going to see my son play for the NBA? Wouldn't it be nice to actually know if I'm going to be around? Now, me personally, I'd rather starve to death than commit a bunch of crimes to survive, because I used to commit crimes to survive. But I also don't have children. I don't have some queen leeching money off of me with the state, having their metaphorical bullet to my head saying, you better pay or you're going back to jail again. Imagine living in Chicago, which is now called Chirac. Imagine having to set your own morals to the side, your own, willingness to care for the next guy, your own willingness to actually care and value the next man's life. You have to set that to the side to survive. There's some places that if you don't join a gang, you're on the menu. You can be the baddest motherfucker in the world. That bullet will still hit you in the head. And a lot of motherfuckers in the hood, the moment you start to reach a certain level of success, you become a target, especially if you don't have a crew, especially if you do it the right way. Because everybody's trying to eat. Everybody. So right when you're starting to make it, the eyes are looking at you, all these eyes. And jealousy and hunger sets in for those who are watching you. If you're in the hood, and you're reaching a nice level of success, before you get out of the hood, don't drive the nice car with the rims. Don't buy the gold teeth and the chains. Don't fucking fall for that stupid shit. That puts a target on your head. I've seen it play out. I've lived in many, many, many hoods. Seen it play out. You feel proud for your brother that's out there driving that nice car that he always wanted to drive, wearing the jewelry he's always wanted to wear. It's his way of saying, I have this gold chain on me, so society's not going to chain me down. I'm doing well for myself. I got these nice rims. I'm doing well for myself. It's flashy. Nobody else got this. Without realizing that society is teaching you to put all of your money into that So that way, a smart man like you that can actually get out of the hood, now you can't, because now you're in a pine box because you flashed a bunch of shit in front of people who ain't got it, who maybe don't have the skill set that you had to get out, and now they jealous and they killed you. Took everything you had, took your dreams, took your possessions, but worst of all, they took your future away. And if you had kids, they took away their father. And now your kids are likely to end up as a gang member just like the one that shot you. All because the system is selfish and greedy. They say, oh, there's a high crime rate, let's not put jobs there. Don't they know that that is the solution to crime? More opportunity, more jobs. That is the solution to crime. Not the other way around. When they say, oh, there's a high crime rate, let's not put business here, they're saying fuck you to people who are struggling. They're saying fuck you to people who have to hustle to survive. And a lot of good men out there that maybe have never lived in the hood, I'm here to tell you, when you go a couple weeks without eating, when you go a couple weeks sleeping out in the rain, you might have been a good man before that experience, but you're not willing to starve to death. You're not willing to sit out in that rain forever. And if you ain't got a job and there's no woods to go hunt and build, your own little shack, what's the next option? Welfare? Section 8 housing? Good luck. Good luck with that. Section 8 housing is mostly given to single mothers. Not to men, not to the black men who are struggling. They assume that, oh, you're a black man, you should just go work. Oh, just go get a job, like you're some hobo. And if you're a black man and you're trying to get Section 8 housing, you can get it. You might have to stay at your mom's house for a fucking couple years. That's if she lets you. That's if you get along. Or you might have to stay at your aunt's house or somebody else's house. And that's if you can actually, you don't even know when or if you'll ever get that fucking Section 8. And then when you're in there, you're stuck. Because just like before, there's no opportunities. That's why you were in Section 8 to begin with. There's nothing there for you. A lot of hoods, they have like a gas station or two, a couple corner stores, a couple of, auto shops, Dollar General, and an abortion clinic. I know that hurts for a lot of people to hear that because you're thinking about it right now and you know it's the truth. How are you supposed to survive like that? You'll survive when you stand up to your mayors and your local officials and you tell them enough is enough. Let my people go. And they can, even though bringing all of this opportunity to your communities, it's just one of many of the things necessary to rebuild the black community. You need opportunities, and instead of them taking them away because there's high crime, they need to put more. It's not just that. It is the family structure that needs to be fixed. It's the main thing that MGTOW talks about, is that the family structure is destroyed. And understand this, before they tell you to hate, white people and stuff, just understand that they're destroying the family structure on every single side, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, anything. They want to destroy the family structure on all corners of the earth. The fucked up thing is that they just use you as the blueprint. And they feel if you don't wake up to why this is all happening and why a lot of black men suffer in this world and why their lives are not panning out into the American dream, what it could have been, they don't want you to wake up to that because they go, oh, if they don't wake up to it, then we can do it to everybody else. It's not just about control. It's not just about race. They used you first because you were already down the moment they claimed to give you your freedom. You were already at the lowest of the totem pole. And the moment a few black men inspired you, they had them murdered. Again, Martin Luther King was a good man. He was a Republican. He was a God-fearing man. Now, personally, I don't believe that any book in the world can truly, teach us who God is, but there has to be a God. When 140 shell casings came through my house during that live stream that YouTube eventually took down, that Successful, my moderator, he was there. He's seen it. He was moderating that video. When that many rounds goes past you and not one hits you, there's a God. I get clipped by a vehicle last year, and I recovered 6 months before they said I would ever walk again. There's a God. I drove from Florida all the way back to Boise when I had to leave. And I had nothing last year. Nothing. I might be in this van right now, but I feel blessed because I'm making it. I'm not making it on my schedule, but there is a God. I don't believe that any organized religion can explain what I'm seeing, the miracles that I'm seeing in life. But just as soon as there is a God, there is evil out there as well. I'm not going to say the devil or whatever. There is some evil shit out there, though. I'll say this, there's demons out there who plant seeds of deception and division among society. Someone once told me that when you look at a playground, you'll see black kids and white kids playing innocently. But isn't it sad knowing that within the next 10 to 15 years, they're going to be told to point at each other and criticize each other in ways that will cause them to never play like they did when they were kids. I see more children of all races hanging out and playing than I see adults talking and listening. Why is it that the children can hang out and everything be fine, but we adults, from the teenagers all the way up to the adults, we can't do that? Some of you need to think back to when you were in school. Some of your friends did not have the same skin color as you, and you were okay with that. You didn't think about politics. You didn't think about Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. You didn't think about that. You didn't think about Republican versus Democrat, feminist versus not feminist. You hung around them because you had a lot more in common than you ever thought possible. In fact, you thought very little of the differences. When you're young and you hang out with somebody who's not the same race as you, you tend to immediately, and it's a biological drive to just instantly go, yeah, they're different, But then you're curious instead of being, fearful. As a white man, whenever I was young, I was in a small town and there wasn't a lot of black people, but there was some. I was not fearful of them. I was curious. And because of that curiosity, I have had lifelong friends. Unfortunately, I got thrown into the foster care system as a young man. I got thrown into Houston, Texas. There's a group home called Sheltering Harbor. And if you're more religious than me, you need to pray for the young men that are there today. Abuse still goes on to this day. And nobody changes it. I can't tell you how many times the cops were called by the kids, and the cops did nothing. They beat on you. They throw you on the ground like you're trash. Never mind the fact that you might have a past history of being abused by your own parents or previous guardians. Doesn't matter to them. It's called a residential treatment center, and they will beat on you. But these young black men, which was the majority of the race in these foster homes, they singled me out because I was just some little scrawny, white, country boy at the time. And when I saw them picking on, people and bullying people of their own race, these young black men were bullying young men of their own race that had mental issues that were in the home. And I did not like that. And I grew up watching Gunsmoke, so I felt like I had to stand up for the ones being bullied. The problem is I wasn't that much of a fighter. So I became the new target. Oh, he's full of energy. He's full of good. Let's break him. I got called cracker, honky, you name it, all of it. And eventually, because I always fought back, eventually I got good at fighting. Because if I didn't, bad shit was going to continue to happen to me. I was the minority, so I know what it's like to feel singled out and to feel like the other side hates you based on your skin. I know what it's like. It's rare, but if you're white and you've ever been in the foster care system in certain cities and in certain areas, certain zip codes, you know what I'm talking about. It does happen. But the same ones that were bullying me was also bullying, black men too. They were bullying young men from their own race. Because I defended them, I became the target of hate and hate crime. Nobody solved it for me. I had to defend myself. And mind you, every time I stood up for myself, the staff would break up the fight. No matter who started it, no matter who did this and that, they would slam both sides onto the ground, face first, and you couldn't even go to school for a week. A lot of us had to skip school for a whole week and just hope that we could catch up when the black eye went away, when the busted lip healed up, when the dislocated shoulder, when that swelling went down. And they put their knees on our necks. These staff members were also African American, hurting young African American boys in this home. Unfortunately for me, it turned me into a racist for a little while because I assumed that all black people hated me. I assumed that because of what I went through, from the abusive staff to the young black men who tried to bully me, and I had to whip every man's ass or I was going to be on the bottom. And eventually I was on top. So I'm not scared of nobody on the internet because I have fought real battles not just in the military, but as a young man. I had to grow up quick. When they say it's a dog-eat-dog world, it's true. But I assumed that all black people were violent and abusive and hated me because I was white. Thank God for the military for snapping me out of that. I don't even know where I would be today if it wasn't for the military. When I got hurt, it was a 6'5" black man who picked me up and carried me to where I needed to be while I was not in my right mind because I was hurt. Nobody else helped me, but that man did. When I was in the hood, when I got out of the service, I found true brotherhood, true brotherhood. While I was living in multiple ghettos, I knew a couple white people in the ghetto, but they had that mentality where they thought it was cool to be there, and they never wanted to leave. They didn't have my back. A lot of the young men that were in the gangs that I hung around, I hung around some gangs because I needed protection. These young men had no fathers in their life as far as like day-to-day activity. Now, their fathers were there. They had fathers, despite what the media says, but their fathers were pushed out of the home. A lot of them, the older they got, the less they respected their fathers. But they found brotherhood in these gangs. It was the only structure they could find, was in these gangs. Their mothers were dysfunctional and had no structure. Their fathers were either working, so many hours that they just weren't there, or they weren't even allowed to be around their sons enough for their sons to even really bond with their fathers enough to have that connection and to be responsible like their father, who is working 70 hours plus a week just to barely fucking, provide, just to barely make it. So these young men go, I don't want to be like my father and have to work 70 hours a week. And then they see how dysfunctional their mothers are, and they go, I don't want to ever get married if that's how women are going to behave. And some of them even say, I don't want to have kids because I don't want to be pulled out of the home. And then the woman that my baby mama, I don't want her beating my fucking future children and forcing me to pay for it through the state. Isn't that fucked up? That nobody on the left or right is talking about this. Black Lives Matter is not talking about it. Nobody is. Because it's easier to say, oh, the other side hates me. Just like when I was in foster care, oh, poor me, I'm a white kid being picked on by a bunch of black people. Oh, I'll just hate black people like they're a bunch of fucking heathens and be a racist against black people. Despite the fact that the only reason why I was experiencing abuse from black people is because they themselves were raised in abuse. Because they were raised by single mothers. That's why they were removed. There was a couple of cases where the fathers were abusive to these, young men, but in all cases, these young men were abused by their mothers. It wasn't the black fathers beating their kids with a vacuum cleaner cord. It wasn't the fathers telling their sons to kneel on rice for 7 hours or they were going to get beat again. It wasn't the fathers who were starving their fucking children. It was the mothers. And again, there are some exceptions to the rule. There was even one story where a black father had raped his son multiple times. That broke my heart to hear. Whenever I was young, I was too young to hear that type of shit. But we had group. And he was the new kid. They asked him, what your name is and why you're here, just to let it out. So everybody kind of just lets it out. He broke down in tears. I found out later that his father was raised by a very abusive woman who molested his father. Then his father ended up molesting his son. Funny how, in most cases, when people think of that story, they think about, oh, well, his father was fucked up. But they forget that his father was also raised by a single mother who pushed the father out. So he was abused, and then he had no compass, and then he fucking did the worst thing possible. He took it all out on his son because of his childhood being filled with this mental illness, that he was fucked with by his own mother. So then what does he do? Is he abused his son. Cases like that, though, are so fucking rare where a man is abusing his son. But you'll see that more often on the news and in the media and on TV shows and on the SVU TV shows. You'll see all of this shit about how abusive men are, especially black men, and how they aren't there for their kids and that they don't give a fuck about their kids. You'll see and that was a fucked up case. It was a real story. But they'll never talk about the women who are beating their children with fucking cords or starving them to death. I mean, you see it in your local media, but you'll never see it on Fox News. You'll never see it on CNN. And anywhere you see it, anywhere else on the internet, it's being snuffed out. Never mind the fact that untamed dark female nature, and when I say dark female nature, I'm talking about all races. So for all the people that are new to that term, when I say dark female nature, I'm not talking about black people in general. Dark female nature, I'm talking about evil female nature. When that's allowed to run rampant, when women are allowed to prophetize their disloyalty against men, those are the type of stories you're going to get in the black community. But people on the far, far right, I have some staunch conservative views, but this is the one thing I have an issue with the far right. They don't want to acknowledge any of this stuff for the most part. Not on the mainstream media. But they're so quick to say, oh, the black fathers are deadbeats. They're not there for their kids. And then you see these memes all over Facebook talking about, like there's a meme where it shows a skeleton looking outside and it says, me waiting for my father. And it's in reference to black men. Everybody makes jokes about this shit. Even comedians make jokes about this shit. It's not funny. When I played ball, when I was young, my father was not there. There's a scar on my lip because when I was 3 years old, I had a cinnamon roll for the first time. I had no idea what happens when you eat enough bread. It expands in your stomach. and I was just 3 years old. It was the greatest thing I ever ate in my life. I'm just sitting there watching cartoons, and I'm like, man, that cinnamon roll was so good. And so I look up, I said, can I get another cinnamon roll? My dad gives me another cinnamon roll. I take one baby bite out of it, and then suddenly my stomach was full because I had already had one before that. When you're that young, you don't really know your eating limits on everything until you've had it. But that's all I could eat. And he said, you better fucking eat that fucking cinnamon roll. And I started crying because I knew I couldn't do it. And then he punched me in my fucking face at 3 years old. A lot of you may not notice it, but there's a scar on my upper lip. It's been there since I can ever remember. Every experience I've ever had, anytime I've ever had to look in the mirror, I see it. I see that scar. Because my father was abusive. But I remember going and playing ball, going into cross country and track and all that stuff. My father wasn't there. My mother, who was definitely raised by a single mother, who was raised by a single mother, who was raised by a single mother, she went to a few games before we were separated as children. She went to a couple games, but my father was not there. I would look around and I'd see all these black fathers there for their kids. They weren't married with the mothers, but they were there for their kids. I looked around, I've seen all these white fathers that were there. But for some fucked up reason, there were more white mothers than there were white fathers. And there were more black fathers than there were white fathers at those games. That tells you that society is falling apart on both sides. But black fathers have not given up on their children, not one bit. And I don't care how long this video is because I have a lot to say. Black fathers have not given up on their children as a collective. They refuse to give up on their children, even though the odds are stacked against them. Again, it's not just because they're black. It's because they're already down. The moment they were set free, they were like, oh shit, now we got to share our prosperities. Now we got to give them chances. And then like, oh no, we have a right to refuse business to anybody. So they singled out the black people. Oh, we have a right to not hire, who we don't want to hire. So they singled out black people. No, women, they want to sit there and bitch and moan and complain about, oh, they've been oppressed this whole time. Bitch, please. The black man has been oppressed a lot longer. The problem is that you've got anti-white groups stealing the narrative, cherry-picking history, and trying to erase history. All for some feel-good moments, but not solving one thing for the black man. And then you got black women out there hooping and hollering about, oh, we're doing so good fighting the system. Bitch, no, you're not. Because you black women out there, if the black man really wakes up one day to what's happening to him and his fucking family structure, you bitches would not be sitting on your fat asses anymore getting a free fucking ride. Yes, again, there's always exceptions to the rule. There are black women out there that have their own job. There are black women out there who have, baby daddies that are assholes. It does happen. But an exception to the rule does not take away the reality of most people and in most situations. And the truth is if your baby daddy is an asshole, that's because you chose it. And here's another thing. And I'm not going to be simping for black women when I say this, but in the hood, A black woman knows that it's dangerous and risky to be with a nice guy who has his shit together, because it makes them the target. So a lot of black women, instead of being bold and saying, I want the nice guy, instead of taking that risk, they choose the easy way out. Their first instinct, oh, I need to be protected. I need this gang member. I need this thug because there's a gang 3 houses down, a trap house 4 houses down, a trap house across the street, whatever the fuck the case is, however far one is. You know, a lot of black women, they feel, I need this to be, you know, to feel safe. And then the black men go, I have to behave this way so women feel safe around me. Damn, I keep burping and shit. And that just keeps the cycle going. When black men, you know, live in a system where they go, you know, all these women out here just want a thug. Otherwise, I'm going to have to settle for some woman I'm not attracted to. I hear black men say that all the time. I have to be a thug or I have to settle for ugly. And then you hear black women say, I need a thug so I can feel safe. And then you hear the system itself and the state itself and the court itself say, when you're bored with that thug, don't forget to give us a call because you're going to need more money when he leaves or when you push him out. The family structure that was there in the 60s is gone. And they had more obstacles then, supposedly, than they do now. You know, supposedly, you know, black people have more opportunities today than they did back then. But the truth is, instead of saying no whites, instead of saying, you know, no blacks allowed, see, this is how you know it's unfiltered. I'm just going to keep this unfiltered. Instead of saying no blacks allowed in this restaurant, there's just no restaurant there. Instead of saying no blacks allowed to work in this manufacturing shop, there's just no manufacturing shop. Look at Detroit. A lot of those manufacturing shops have closed the fuck down. You go to Chicago and instead of saying, you know, a black man can't drink this water fountain, well, there's no business there with a water fountain. You see how you've been played. Deep down, Black America knows something is up, but they're being distracted to simply attack white people and this idea of white privilege. The truth is that there's no privilege in being white and being the scapegoat for what the elites at the top are doing. There are elites who are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Jewish, every race, and every religion has elites with agendas, every single one. One will have more power this fucking generation and another group will have more power next generation. They are all in competition with each other, but they have shared goals. They might have separate agendas in some aspects, but the one thing they don't want is unity. They don't want you to listen to that quote from Dr. Martin Luther King where he says, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. They want you to put that on Facebook as a touchy-feely quote 1 month out of the year. But they don't want you to really live that or think about that. When Black Lives Matter has a protest, the media covers it because they know the moment they cover it, people from neighboring cities and neighboring states are going to show up and cause mayhem for the locals. The media is very aware that Black Lives Matter does not have enough organization. In the military, in order to create a platoon of men or even women, in order to create any sense, even if it's just a little bit more than the average guy or the average woman, in order to get them to that point where they have structure, it takes months of consistency. And they have to break your spirits down to build you up and to get you focused on that structure and on that training. The reason why a lot of movements get hijacked by radicals, just like some have tried to hijack this group, but I'll be damned, I push those motherfuckers out. Every time there's a movement, and I'm not saying that MGTOW is a movement, but I'm just saying, movement, philosophy, religion, everything gets hijacked by opportunists and people with agendas. Every single one. The original feminists, they said, I just don't want to be forced to be, a housewife. I just want to have a say in politics. And it didn't happen overnight, but nowadays they're saying men have no right to flirt with women in public. In some countries, they're trying to pass laws to force men to piss sitting down. And in the United States, these feminists are trying to tell men how to sit. How to fucking sit. And men of all races are censored about criticizing women. Meanwhile, they can say whatever they like about how men are dogs and about black men being deadbeats. Isn't it interesting how, they start out asking for, I just want to vote. I don't want to be forced to make a baby. Now they're trying to take our rights away as men. All of us. All of us. And then they have the fucking goal to sit there and create a group called Black Lives Matter. But they don't point out any of the things that I've talked about because it's difficult. And that requires reflection for society to do that. Isn't it interesting how they call it Black Lives Matter when they need to say Black Men Matter? Because it is black men who are suffering more so than black women. Why don't they say black families matter? That's right. Because there's almost none left. Every other race is about to follow in suit. The family structure in the white culture is crumbling as well. There's enough evidence to suggest that the white population is in a steep decline, even though black America seems to be going through the hardest time. Statistics would show you that when any culture, any race goes through extreme poverty or extreme hardships or even times of war, they have a lot of kids. That's what happened during the boomer generation in America. Time of war, you have a bunch of kids. White people don't realize that the system is at war with their families as well, but the system is definitely at war with a black America because, like I said, you are the blueprint to what they're going to do to the rest of us. And because you're at war with them unknowingly, you think it's just a race thing. It's not. That's what they want you to think. It's not just because you're black. But because you're at war with the system and the system is at war with you, even if you don't want to be in the war, you have been drafted. You have been forced into the draft. You just don't know it yet. And because you were forced in this draft, you're having a lot of children. But sadly, many of them end up dead. And even more end up aborted. And many of them end up in prison. And many of them end up with mental illness because of the system that they have grown up in. I fucking hate it when the liberals talk about systemic racism, because it takes away from the chance to explain what's going on, because it will shut the other side out. When you say systemic racism or white privilege, it makes white people just automatically shut down and feel attacked. And that's why nobody's listening to you. And it's sad to watch because I know what's going on. Start replacing the word systemic racism with systemic destruction. You're being hit with systemic destruction. It's not racism, because it's going to hit all of us. The white population is crumbling because we aren't hurting as much yet. But they are coming for us next. That's why they want you to attack us. Do you think the journalists have to suffer? Nope. Do you think the elites are going to suffer from this? Nope. They all live in nice, cushy neighborhoods. They've all got security guards when they need them. But I've seen videos that broke my heart where I've seen members of the Black Lives Matter group where they were so enraged and they swallowed so much propaganda about how bad white people are that they would just go randomly in public and just randomly punch white people and knock them out. It's called the knockout game. You see, I am very well read on what's going on. I just chose not to talk about it until I was ready. What do you think happens to a white man who is a ex-Marine that's just sitting there at McDonald's, just sitting there, and then a bunch of young black men who have so much potential as black men, so much, but they have been indoctrinated to say, I fucking hate that white man over there, not knowing that that man used to, be in the military, which means that he fought next to black men, Asians, and everybody else, and protected them as they did him. Then he comes to the States, and the powers that be have caused so much division that he just wants to buy a fucking cheeseburger, but he gets knocked out because he's white. Stereotypes are a messy cycle of hate. And it does go both ways. But the thing is until black people realize what's really going on, what's really destroying them, until they realize it, they're always going to attack white people because they're not getting the right information. And before you know it, the white family is going to be going through the same thing. Next thing you know, you're going to see, and there are already a lot of police shootings and crooked cops hurting white people and hurting white families. It does happen. But you don't see it in the suburbs where you see a lot of cops, spying on people, randomly searching people, unless you don't dress in a way that makes you blend in. I know, because at least once or twice I've lived in, nice neighborhoods, once or twice. I've never quite blended in. I like wearing muscle shirts. I've got a couple tattoos. I always smell like pot. And I hang around people of all races and creeds. And I have been singled out for the way I dress and the way I am. But I've never been killed. I've ran from the cops a couple times and I've gotten away with it. I fought cops and I got away with it. I sold a lot of drugs back in the day and I got away with it. I'm not dead. But part of me wonders that perhaps if I was not white, perhaps, and this is just a thought, perhaps I would have never even had this channel. Perhaps I would be dead. I guess I'll never really know. But I will say this, I am proud of myself for deprogramming the racism that I did carry because of what I unfortunately went through in foster care. I am glad that I don't hold that over black society. Because the truth is that the young black men that I went to foster care with that committed hate crimes against me, not only did it make me stronger, but I didn't let their hate give me an excuse to find weakness in myself. I found strength. Unfortunately, I channeled it into racism at the beginning. But once I got a little bit older, I realized that they were only like that towards me because they were indoctrinated and abused physically, mostly by single black mothers. So I had a duty to stop feeling the way that I felt towards black people. Because when I got out, I had to join the military. And when I got out of that, I had to live in the hood. Again, just like I did in foster care. And I was so scared to talk to my neighbors. I was so scared to make friends with anybody that was not white. I was terrified. I was emotionally compromised and mentally scarred. But eventually I worked myself out of that shell. And to all the people that are scared of the big bad race, the big bad races, that are out there, show them why you're better than what they think you are. If somebody looks at you because you're black and they think less of you, instead of getting mad and violently angry at that person, understand they might have been like me. They might be emotionally and mentally scarred or compromised due to a past experience or past programming. My mother used to be extremely racist whenever I was a kid. Then she found some black friends. And it also sunk in that she's not fully white. My grandmother's name was Deacanogia Gaia, which means woman of feathers. It's a Cherokee name. My mother deprogrammed herself. She got rid of that racism, and now one of her best friends is a black woman that lives next door. I know we don't talk a lot about positive things with women, but it was a good feeling to see my mother, who she still carries a lot of baggage. She's been married too many times. I'll say it that way, and I feel bad for my stepfather sometimes because she's overly aggressive and she has a lot of baggage. But I am proud. And I'm going to say the truth. I know she's going to probably hear this, but I'm going to say the truth. I am proud that even with all of the baggage that she carries, even with all of my doubt that she'll ever stay in a marriage and actually be loyal to a man, even with all of that doubt, I can say 100%, at least my mother is no longer a racist. But I'm even prouder to say that I'm not a racist. Because I love black people. Love. Just like I said at the beginning of this, the word love has been tainted. It's been warped. Love is nothing more than commitment. And when I started this channel, I said I'm committed to freeing all men worldwide. It's funny how a lot of people will say that, but they don't take a second to think about what the other side is going through. That's why I waited a long time to make this video. I love all people. I hope for the best for men and women. But it's not until men stand up for themselves that we can look into these things to fix them. Only when men wake up and realize that they are the target as a collective, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, it does not matter. We are the ones being attacked. They could have, skipped black people. They could have skipped you and went straight to white people, but it would have been a little bit obvious if they would have skipped you and went straight to white people. And not only that, why would they do that? Back in the 60s and all that, and all the way up until now, when there's just mostly white politicians. They want those votes. They want those votes. And now that they're seeing a chance that in the future there's going to be less white people than there are black people, now they want to control your energy and your resentment for a system that has shit on you. And they're going to slowly but surely switch to doing everything that they did to you. They're going to do to black. Everything that has been done to black people, they're going to start doing to white people, and so on and so forth. There's not as many white people in politics as there used to be. There's not as many white people interested in future politics in future generations as there used to be. So they want to control your energy. They want to control your dreams. They want to control your passion, and they want to control your resentment and your drive to be what the left calls woke. But the truth is, if you were really woke, you wouldn't listen to a fucking thing the left has to say. And never forget that the KKK, when they first came out, they were all Democrats. They did not swap sides to Republican. There was a small handful, like literally as many as I can count fingers, that had swapped sides. That was it. MLK was a Republican. Remember that. Do you really think that the KKK swapped sides? No, they didn't. They want you on welfare, and they want black women to get their extensions and their fake up and to keep popping out babies to be future political foot soldiers. Because they know black people are willing to do more in politics in the future. They know it. But they don't want you to be like Martin Luther King. They don't want that. They would rather you be like Malcolm X. A lot of people don't realize it. Malcolm X, he seems cool to a lot of people. But he had a lot of hate in his heart. Now, it was justified for what he has, seen and gone through. But there's a reason why more people mention MLK today than Malcolm X. Most people that prop up Malcolm X, they hate the idea of white prosperity. But I'm here to tell you, white people are not going to prosper for very much longer. If you're brown skinned, no matter what race you are, you're probably going to inherit the West. And that's okay. But only if you know what you're going to do with it after everything that has happened to your ancestors and the white men like me who had your best interest at heart. What's going to happen to my generations, my next generations, because I might get a surrogate mother, I might have kids. What's going to happen? Are they going to love each other, or are they going to fear each other and hate each other? Because at the end of the day, where there is no unity, there is no peace. That's why I hate whenever I hear Black Lives Matter say, no justice, no peace. Well, if you don't know what's really happening to your communities and your family structure and why there's so much crime and how these news heads want to sit there and bash black fathers and they want to prop up black women who are single mothers and cause the crime rate to spike. You know, you want to talk about justice. Where's the justice in calling that out? Why is it okay for black women to have all of this fucking power? And the baby daddies end up in fucking jail if they can't pay it. I'm going to put a link in the description to show you a video of a very responsible black father who was there for his kid. He even got Father of the Year. He got an award, literally, for Father of the Year. He always paid his, child support. Always paid it, but there was a glitch in the system and he was not able to pay his child support. He had to go to jail. It was a public spectacle that only made it to his local news, but you didn't see it on Fox News or CNN. And don't act like they don't know. If there are any good journalists out there, they're either cowards or they're being silenced. They're being told, oh no, we can't talk about this. People won't listen to that. That won't rile people up. That doesn't get us views. And because it does not get them views or support, and it might be a little controversial, oh, they can't have that. It's okay for The Real or whatever the fuck that show's called to criticize men. But the moment you criticize women, you're shut down, you lose your job, people lose respect for you. Who really has the power? Is it the white man? Or is it the queens? Is it the police officers? Or is it the baby mamas? But then also ask yourself, who gave them that power? Who gave them that power? And when you think about that, and you really dig deep, and you separate race and gender, but you still ask that question, who gave these black queens all of this power? Look for the groups which has many different races, and it has both men and women in it. When you look, because I know if I mention specific groups, it's just going to cause more fucking problems for me, and I'm already running from enough because I've exposed enough. But this needs to be dealt with. And if you're a black YouTuber out there, just know I got your back. And if anything happens to my channel or this video, I will always make more channels and I will always make more videos. Start a movement called Black Men Matter. Not Black Lives Matter. Separate from that. But when you do, make sure it's organized. Create rank and explain everything that I just laid out. But most importantly, every time you have a meeting with your black brothers, even if you don't agree with everything that Martin Luther King Jr. stood for politically, you may not want to be a Republican, you may not want to be a Democrat, you may not want any of that. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're an atheist. It's okay. That's your own battle. But one thing I know that you agree with is, I can't say it enough. When he said, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. I know somewhere out there is a black man listening. And I know you were nervous at the beginning of this that a white man's trying to say how you feel or what you're going through. The only reason why I'm talking about it, because I'm tired of watching these white liberals talk about it. And they're the only ones allowed to give an opinion about it. And the right only criticizes the riots and the looting, but they don't go right to the source of the problem. So what I want you to do is when you meet up with your black brothers for a new group called Black Men Matter, I want you every single time you meet to say, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And do a huddle when you do that. Your black brothers out there have rarely gotten a hug from another brother. Rarely. The only time it seems like black men hug these days is when it's direct blood, when it's direct family, or when you're at a funeral because your son, your father, your uncle, your brother, your cousin got shot. Suddenly, you finally are hugging, but only because you had to take a loss. And now you have to put another face on a shirt. Fuck the people on the right that go, oh, what about the high crime rate? What about the high crime rate that's in Chicago? But they don't want to explain why it's like that. It's a good talking point if you're willing to explain why, but they're not. They're not willing to explain why, and they know it, even though a lot of people on TV, they're far right, a lot of them are white. It seems like they don't know what you're going through, but oh, believe me, they know, but they are controlled. And they don't want to offend women. They don't want to talk about how all of the control has been given to the women and how the system has profitized divorce. But that just makes these white talking heads traitors to their own race because, like I've said, and I can't say it enough, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's coming for all races. MGTOW is proof that this type of chaos and crime and dysfunction and anger and willingness to revolt, it's coming. But if we as a people don't see it coming, we won't know how to harness that energy for a real revolution. Because at the end of the day, only one side's going to be put in its place. Even if you don't feel like there is a place, there's a place. Either you're going to be placed on the side of victory, understanding, and unity, or you're going to be placed on a side where another civil war happens, and in the end, somebody got to take the blame in the history books, but that somebody won't be the secret societies that caused it. Put it this way, when there's another civil war, whoever loses will be blamed for everything. But the truth is both sides will lose if there is ever a real civil war, but I see it coming. I refuse to pick a side. I don't care if every black man turns into a Black Panther and wants to kill me because I got blue eyes. I will close my eyes and quote the Bible. They know not what they do. And if I was black, I would say the same thing. If the KKK or the system itself tried to kill me, they know not what they do. Create a new group that invites all races to join you, and also all sides of politics to join you, so long as they leave the old propaganda and the old ideas and the old theories that they've previously been taught. They got to leave that at the door and be willing to learn the new fucking truth, the real truth. It's not the new truth. It's just the fucking truth. Everything I said here, I said with passion and concern. And I chose all of my words carefully. I might have stumbled a couple times, and this is not edited, and I don't care how long this video is. I don't fucking care. Because we have all been hearing years and years of the same excuses. We've been hearing years and years and years of the same bullshit. So it's time to bring both sides together and wake up. Again, when I say they in my song, they're going to set a fire to our lands. And if we don't wake up, no one stands. When I said that in my song called Fuck the System, Watch It Burn, I'm not talking about, oh, black people burning down everything. No, it's the secret societies. It's the outsiders that aren't even a part of the protests. As much as I don't like a lot of the propaganda in Black Lives Matter, they still have a right to protest. They still have a right to speak. But they also have a right to not have people from outside areas coming in because the media invited everybody in. They invited mass outrage. It's fucking terrible. You don't need 50,000 people to show up in one city or millions in each city to fucking set fire to shit to make a point. And what's sad is you're not making the right points. Point out everything that I've said. Focus on having small chapters of men in the group called Black Men Matter. That's what you need. Because if you have small chapters, you can become organized. You can create your own little system. You can create structure within that group. You can create your own little pamphlets. And you can control what people are learning in your group. Create patches. Make it a biker, gang or something. A biker gang that does not go out and beat on people or commit crimes or anything, but a biker gang that keeps everybody together. And only let white men in if they don't have political agendas, and only let other black men in if they don't have political agendas. You know how beautiful that would be? Martin Luther King, if he was looking over and he's seen a bunch of black and white men rolling down the street, feeling free as a bird, riding a motorcycle. And then when you achieve your goals of overall unity in this country, and you do it when no other group could. When you do it, the history books will remember you. And then your children that you look at, when you wonder about their future, you can know that Martin Luther King did not die for no reason. And that hate lost. And that the little bit of hate that's left in the world, it has no power over the system. But it's not until you stand up and we hold each other's hands and get into that fucking shield wall. It's not until we all get in that shield wall together that we can win this war. Because make no mistake, if we don't fight together one day, America's going to be a giant prison where you're going to have no choice but to pick a side, or you're going to be the one on the plate. You're going to be the one with the bullseye on your head. And wouldn't it be terrible if white people had to look, with eyes, on the back of their head, and if black people had to do that every fucking day when they walk past somebody with different skin color? Like it's the 60s, like it's the 1800s all over again. Some of you need to listen to that Martin Luther King speech again. And when you do, you'll see that I was right. And again, I'm going to leave you with this one. I know it's been a long video, but I'm going to leave you with this one point. Just to reiterate. If you're going to organize, don't be like what happened on Bloody Sunday. Get the permits. Get organized like the fucking military. And don't let outsiders in your protest. You guys should be telling people, bring your IDs if you're going to join this protest. And if they don't, beat on them and not the police. Say, we don't want somebody that, if you're in Detroit doing a fucking protest one day, do it peacefully and look at everybody's IDs. If they're not from there, let's say you're from out of state, but you just happen to be there with family, you want to go, too bad, that's not your city. Watch it on TV. And by doing so, you're helping them promote peace. And if you're from that city, you should have a right to say what you want, even if people like me don't agree. You still have the right to say what you want. But understand that until you say the right things, it's going to keep going and going and going. And then your fucking black children will not grow up in a peaceful, prosperous society. They will grow up in one that has decayed, because this country is not going to last another 50 years. Between the population declines and the division and the fact that they want to set this whole world on fire, make no mistake. Why do you think I'm in the mountains? Perhaps this is the end of times. Perhaps maybe, just maybe, either the Bible is right about the world being set on fire, or the secret societies are trying to force that prophecy upon us. No matter what's happening, put the torches down. Seek true wokeness, not political wokeness, true wokeness, which is outside of the political system, which is above the political system. And only then will we regain our right to true thought in politics and true solutions in politics. I hope when I put this video up, that some of you listen to it all the way through until it sinks in. I hope this video does not get taken down, but it probably will. Because in today's age, they don't have to put a bullet in somebody's head. They just shoot your video down instead. They block it from some countries instead, or they take your channel down altogether. No videos, no channel, no following. It's a lot like when Martin Luther King was killed. He had a platform, he had a following, and then suddenly, no more speeches, no more appearances, just gone. Shot right in the fucking head. Nowadays, you have a YouTube channel, you inspire, tens of thousands or even millions. They unsub people. They lower your view count to keep it from trending. They spy on you. They give you strikes. And then they take your channel down when they feel like you're just not a threat to them anymore. And when they feel like your following has abandoned you, they will take you out. And I wonder if those people that shot at me in Florida aren't waiting in the shadows for that moment that they take my channel down to take care of me and cut me off as a loose end so I can never produce again. And if this video gets me killed, so be it. Because like Martin Luther King, I have a dream as well. I just hope that we all wake up together. This is Mike the MGTOW Man signing off, and as always, never give in. Never surrender. Never hate another man for being lost in his hate. Show him a reason to love the other side. MGTOW for life.